alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
If you're a Christian and our nation's politics and governance do not concern you, you are doing a disservice to the God you believe in. The Bible in Ephesians chapter 1 verse 23 says, the church you see is not peripheral to the world is peripheral to the church. Which means the church is at the center of everything happening within the world, including, if not especially, how God's people are governed. Why then separate church from politics? Church and politics with your host Sylvain Gumisiriza every Sunday 2 to 3 p.m. live on Alternative Uganda Facebook page.
Nze omubejjalu wedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okubanga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba masanyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omonno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna sawa 11 paka sawa emu ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digitalk Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda, baganda baffe, bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdulatif and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Digitalk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Digitalk, real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Buli muntu azalibwa n'eddembe lye ery'obwebange. Obadde okimanyi nti kikakatako okuuma eddembe lino. Eddembe lino likuggyibwako litya era ddi? Munnaffe toyitira. Bino n'ebirala birindirire mu programu yaffe Tteeka ki. N'abaweereza abo Nalukwago Emerin Katumba wamu ne Tumusiime Kato. Buli lwakubiri ku ssaawa 5 ez'okumakya wano ku Alternative Digitalk. Weewaawo tusanyusa okulaba ku the Alternative Digitalk olinage Nalukwago Emerin Katumba mu programu yo eŋŋanzi, programu yo ekivangula ku mateeka Tteeka ki. Programu eno sigirimu nzekka, ngenda kugibeeramu ne munnange Kato Tumusiime. Mpozi programu eno egenda kuba featuringa ba legal consultants, law and order. Egenda kuba featuringa ba legal consultants, law and order, and egenda kuba ekwatako gwe omuntu gy'owangaalira. Tteeka ki erikunyigiriza eyo gy'owangaalira? Tteeka ki erikubobya omutwe? Ffe tugenda kuba tuliteeka mu spotlight. Leero mu studios siriimu nzekka, ndimu ne policy analyst as well as a legal consultant. I will let him introduce himself to you and we go further. Tusanso kulaba ssebo.
Today is English.
Yeah,
my name is Timothy Ntare. Like the host has introduced me, I'm a lawyer and a policy analyst, and currently I work with the Equal Opportunities Commission of Uganda. This being my maiden appearance here, I'm so excited and humbled to be with you. Yeah.
Okay, next to Mr. Ntare is my co-host. I would like him to introduce himself to you, then we proceed.
Yeah, thank you so much, our dear viewers and listeners. Once again, I take this opportunity to welcome you on this great show. This has been a show that has been in preparation for quite a number of days, and we are glad that this is our first show. And I'm called Tumusiime Kato, the co-host of this show, known as Tteeka ki or What Law. So we shall be delving much into different laws and how they affect the well-being and the standards of people on each and every day. And we are proud that today we have one of the great lawyers, Counsel Timothy Ntare, and you're most welcome on the show. Feel comfortable. This is the Alternative Digitalk, and we are always live on our Facebook pages, the Alternative Uganda, and later on our YouTube channel, the Alternative Uganda. You can follow us, like, share, comment, and give in your views. We shall always be there to respond to them. And on our show today, as a first show, omulama gwaffe gugenda kutambulira ku tteeka eripya oba ebbago eripya lye bagezaako okuleeta oba parliament lya Kaisa eri about the landlord and tenant bill. Yes. This is a new law that has been now passed by parliament. But now, before we delve much into the bill itself, Council, I want to first get your view and maybe you educate and tell the viewers, how do we come to a bill first of all, then to a law? You can start from there.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I like the fact that you have made it very clear. The landlord and tenant, it's not yet an act of parliament, but still a bill.
Sure.
Exactly.
Now, like he asked me, we have two types of bills. And one, we have what they call a government bill. And we have a private member's bill. Now,
so, government bill.
Yes.
Ly'obupangisa government lyebekoze njagala omuntu waffe atulabire ewala nga tategeera lulimi luno olufuutifuuti akitegeere bulungi. Government bill ly'obupangisa government lyeba ebaze nti kino kirina okukolebwa. Then private bill.
Kati private bill yebanga MP gy'aleese.
Okay.
Yeah. Kati zino government bills zireetebwa ba minister kubanga babeera ba minister ba government.
Okay.
Kati ngeno landlord and tenant bill yaleetebwa minister. So that's why we call it a government bill.
Sure.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah. So like I've said, either maybe a government bill or a private member's bill, they first presented before parliament on the first reading. First reading there, it's not discussed. You get? It's basically presented before parliament and it's already seconded by the members of parliament. Now after that, then the speaker pushes it to what they call the parliamentary committee.
Okay.
Which discusses it and now brings it back to parliament for the second reading. Now on the second reading, that's where the members of parliament debate that bill and also pass it.
Again, kubaganyako ebirowoozo ne baliisa ne balitwala ekyo bayita committee ya parliament. This committee of parliament is chaired by the speaker. After that parliamentary committee then it goes now to to parliament for the third time. Now on the third reading, it's also debated, and when it's passed, it's presented to the clerk of parliament, who pushes makes the corrections that have been made by the members of parliament, and now it's presented before the president to assent to it. Okay.
So now, before we look at the ascending of this new bill,
yes,
when parliament at the floor of it on the third reading makes corrections and maybe they say something should be removed or scrapped off out of the bill.
Yes.
How is that process done?
It's brought back to one of the parliamentary committee. And the committees of parliament, we have what
legal and parliamentary
committee.
Yes.
Now it's always actually made by members of parliament who are lawyers.
That's right.
So they make corrections and here, there, and also they are helped by what they call the parliamentary council.
Yes.
Now that's the council that drafts bills.
Okay.
Yeah, so if the members make some corrections, they present it to the legal committee, which also pushes it back to the parliamentary council that makes corrections here and there, and then it's presented back to parliament.
So now,
gwe munanga ndabako the Alternative Digitalk. Amateeka Uganda tegava buvi waggulu mu njuba oba waggulu from the skies negagwa. Amateeka gateesebwako, gakubaganyizibwako ebirowoozo. Member wa parliament oba member wange alitunulamu nalaba linaaba likunyigiriza nnyo oba linaaba likuyamba. Amateeka ebiseera ebisinga bagakola gasobola okuyamba both parties fena tubeere equal mu society. So etteeka teriva eri buvi nti ne baliteekawo ne bagamba batunyigiriza nnyo etteeka tetwalyetegekera bali reviewinga emirundi esatu ate era ne ba lawyers baliyitamu okulaba nti lifuuka etteeka okulaba nti likuuma society in a lawful way. Council, mbadde njagala abantu etteeka lino era landlord and tenancy pya naye tubaddemu mu mbeera yaffe ey'obupangisa ne balandlord nga balandlord era nga landlord omuwa ekitiibwa kye livudde ku kirijje nsonga ki erireeta lifuukire ddala etteeka nti likakkali mulina oliwa ekitiibwa lirina okuba respected mu society?
Yeah, I think why government came up with the idea to introduce this landlord and tenant bill is the fact that before we didn't have any law that regulated landlords and tenants. Yes, there are other laws like, for example, the Contracts Act, the Land Act, the Mortgages Act, that you could look at, to come to a relationship. So, meaning that every landlord would come up with his own terms and conditions, and you had to agree with them because basically it's a contract.
Okitegeera landlord abasinga badde balina tenancy agreement zaabwe.
So kati council before nga tetunagendaawo kyoyagala okutegeeza atulabe eyo batuwuliriza. Are you trying to mean that however much we have not had any law that was guiding this relationship between a tenant and a landlord, didn't we have any other laws before coming up to this that were regulating such dealings?
Yeah, that's why I say, for example, there was basically, I think the major law was actually a contract and the Mortgages Act. Contract. We sit with my tenant and we come up with our own terms. But however, kateno landlord and tenant bill, yekuterako bukwakulizo like terms and conditions you have to follow.
So igezako kulungamya, tekako like a uniform law that guides everybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's correct.
So before nga tetunagendaawo obadde otutwala, so when this law is passed by parliament like this one and it is sent to the president for assent, president biki byagenderako oba aina any other options zaye following either to assent to the law or which other options are available to the president ngeteeka balimuwadde kuva mu parliament?
Yeah, so when a bill is presented before the president, of course the president has a legal team or legal advisors who are advising here and there. So first of all, he can either assent to it, and assent we mean by signing it, and it becomes an act, or, for example, if he's advised that actually there are some issues here and there that need to be corrected, then he puts some recommendations and then returns the bill to Parliament, to implement those recommendations that he has set. Yeah, and when he does that twice, then also Parliament actually has the prerogative to pass the bill. So you can only return
the third time.
The third time? Actually, the second time.
Second time.
Yeah. So if he does that twice, returns it to Parliament, then Parliament can pass it. 2/3 of the members can pass the bill.
Then that's when we can have it as a new law now.
Yeah.
Passed, it's no longer a bill.
Sure.
We were tulungamyawo because so many people out there viewing maybe thought when a bill is passed by Parliament, it's a law there and then. But thank you for your guidance.
Actually, abantu abasinga tebamanyi etteeka lifumbibwa mu procedures ki okufuuka etteeka erikola ki erigoverninga Bannayuganda. Bannayuganda abasinga besuulayo gwa nagamba mu mateeka, abamu bagasobya mu butamanya y'ensonga lwaki twateekawo program eno tteeka ki. Abamu bagasobya nga tebamanyi lwaki, tebamanyi nti ga operating. Abamu limala mukwata nalyoka jjukira nti etteeka likola. Naye kanso mu kulowooza kwange nze ndowooza netteeka ligenda yamba nnyo balandlord kuba ndaba Parliament eringa yawadde ba landlord amaanyi over ba tenants. Nyinza okuba nkiraba mu ango yange, nsaba okintunuzeemu mu ango eyiyo kuba etteeka ffenna tuli reviewing tulirabye tulinyonyose. Ndaba nga landlord bamuwadde nnyo luli twalinanga amateeka ga invasion of privacy. Landlord alina engeri gye bamuwadde amaanyi nti asobola n'okuyingira ewange in case of any emergency. What kind of emergency can bring a landlord to my premises nga sibimu communicating idde? Landlord asobola okukwata ebyange n'abitunda singa mba nfunyeemu obuzibu n'okusasula okumusasula akasente ko kamalayo. Etteeka lino liyamba ani ennyo?
In my own view, actually ndaba linetteeka liyamba nnyo ba tenants.
Really?
Nnyo. Yes.
Mungeri ki?
Nsonga kizowa.
First of all, ngenda kutandikira ku rent. Because rent it's basically the major thing in a landlord and tenant relationship.
Chechiba kwasaganya. Sente sente ye relationship we yogera awe. Yeah, sure.
Kati bolaba mulina tteeka bill parliament je passinze. Bakugamba first of all landlord tasobola I cannot increase rent more than 10% annually.
Tekibaddengawo
because yeah
lano lyabadde okanga buzukusi nagamba nkwongeza
kuva n'enkya
ojasasula nkwongeddemu.
Yeah, maybe to explain to our lay people there. Kitegeeza that bwe mbadde nsasula mitwalo 5 landlord tasobola kuongeza kusuka ku mitwalo 5 mu mwaka.
Which is good on the
side. Ekyo kijja kuyamba tenant. Landlord abadde afunanga ebizibu mu sente ze n'agamba leero obadde wa 5 enkya oli wankaaga.
Oli wansava ate nga tulina wakugenda because musanyize contract.
Wamanyira okuliza n'abantu bo okitegeera.
Now the second thing is that landlord bwabanga wakuongeza rent anokuwa notice, written notice ya 90 days.
Anokubuulira emyezi 3 mu maaso nja kuongeza rent.
Yes.
Wow, that's good.
Then also with that notice I know Tteeka like he has to give reasons as to why he's increasing rent. And by the way, that bill is very specific that if a landlord makes a false statement in that notice, it's an offense and he can be imprisoned up to 1 year.
So
meaning that
what you're trying to mean is that when a landlord wants to increase my rent,
yes,
munsonga zaino kulambika bulungi nti
bills
z'amazzi zeeyongedde, umeme bills or yaka bills have increased and maybe other taxes have also increased. Those are the reasons he should stay.
And they should be true in that if they are false, that's an offense.
Tena teka muzize zili personal.
Teka muzi ya personal.
Waliwo kwa bamwongeza school fees nagamba.
Yes.
Room eyo B1 bajongeze neneko kondala kitegeera. Yebadde ngenkola.
Yes. Right. Now cancel ku nsonga yemu. How will this layman, my grandmother who rents a small room in my village maybe, how will they know that maybe RA has increased the rates and the taxes on the landlord, and then this is the reason why he's increasing? Torabanti, however much tteeka ligezaako kulungamya bulungi on some issues, but is it practicable? Is it practical, and will it be done in the way as provided under the bill?
Of course, like the way you have said, I think to some people, for example, like my great grandmother in the village, let me say she's renting a house. She may not know that, for example, the rental tax has been increased to 30%, you know. But, you know, and that's the problem with the law. So, and you know, the lawyer, you know that ignorance of the law is not defense. It's not defense. So, your parliament presumes that actually, after this bill has been passed, it's presumed that every Ugandan Alimanyi.
Right.
So it's upon oneself that you should actually interest yourself in this bill and that.
Oh, okay. Maybe before we go any further, our dear viewers, this is a new show, as we told you at the beginning, and it's called Tteeka. What law?
Yeah.
What law? Before nga tunabako kubako chokola, first ask yourself, get legal advice, find somebody to help here and there and tell you you're going to do ABCD, but you're doing it under what law. And this is the purpose of the law and of the show to also is update you and give you the insights on different laws. Now council, when I was trying to read through this bill, there is a provision that talks about fit for purpose, fit for human habitation. Yes. Doesn't that mean that this law specifically aims at areas that are in the high ends areas? Is so developed and are they not ignoring the areas?
Abantu abali okay kati fena tuli bana Uganda. Tusasula emisolo. Government etuvunanyizibwako. Waliwo tenant renting ekololo emuyenga ne munyonyo. Waliwo ne ba tenants aba rentinga ekatanga muchikoni naye mupangisa asasula yes ne landlord we asasula property rates naye olaba etteka lino nawe ligamba nti aba tenants oba human beings balina okuba nga bafittinga mu standards of living, proper standards of living.
Fit for habitation,
Yeah.
that's what the law says. And are we not neglecting those people who rent in
Abasula kumpi
areas
n'omwala.
of Katanga and the rest that are not so developed, like in every man's thinking and understanding to make it fit for purpose and human habitation?
I think I'm going to look at it in a legal,
In a legal perspective.
Yeah.
That's why we have you as a lawyer.
Yes. When you look at that bill, provides that there is an implied term that the premises that are rented are fit for human habitation. Kino kitegeeza nti nobwe batukoze because tenancy agreement and we don't even put that term. It's implied, the law implies it. Nobwe banga tugitaddemu your contract. The law implies it, that it should be there. So, and when you read that specific section of the bill, the test for human habitation is that those premises should be in tandem with the requirements under the Building Control Act and the Public Health Act. Which is that those premises should fulfill the conditions under the Public Health Act and Building Control Act for them to be fit for human habitation. And now, one may urge, for example, if in Katanga, those areas of Bwai, say, where floods and all that, one that may cause slums,
Yeah.
does this law also apply to me? For the law presumes that for you
Buli muntu ali bulungi.
not that buli muntu ali bulungi na, by the time you construct a premise to rent abantu babeeremu,
Sure.
it should be in line with the Public Health Act. And if you don't do that, that means it's illegal. So for people who are doing there, they are renting premises which don't fit within the requirements under the Public Health Act. That means that those premises were constructed illegally.
Illegally.
Illegal.
Yes.
So that means that they should be demolished and
No,
Abo baveeyo.
no, but I think we have to look at those regulated bodies like KCC. They can find a way.
Kati awo wenetagira ba law enforcers in
Yes.
our locations, our districts, our zones, our LCs. Ekifo kiba nga tekiri fit for human living. Nga nawe olaba tuyinza kukulizaawo omwana wo. Mbadde nsaba ebifo babireke at least omuntu mwalasobola omuntu mwanagira endwadde wanokolera yatubonyaabonya nnyo. Omuntu wanagira endwadde ate zigenda okugisa ssente mu treasury ate tujjanjaba abantu kolera babe nga ba enforcing okulaba nti swamp esigala swamp abantu tebalina kubeera mu swamp ekibira kibeere kibira n'abantu babeere we balina okubeera. Obutamanya tteeka tekikugisaako omusango oli mu program tteeka ki tukubangula ku mateeka Nalukago Emery Katumba Kato tumusiime ne Council Timothy Ntare tukubangula ku mateeka wano ku the alternative Digitalk. Mbadde nsaba Kato.
yes, we were new, and this now goes to you, Council. In relation to the condition of fit for human habitation, there has been always this practice. I have you as my landlord, and when you want to visit your premises, for example, I stay in Kansanga, this is where I rent. And when you want to visit your premises, maybe to check whether the electricity is well or whether the water system is operating, so you just wake up one morning and find me at my residence. But now in this new bill, they suggest that you should give me a notice of 20 hours. Isn't that being unfair to me? Because this is my property. However much you are renting it, it remains my property. Isn't it unfair on the side of the landlord?
I don't think it is unfair.
Why? Why do
To be
you think
honest,
it's
on the
not
side of
unfair?
the landlord. Because, first of all, this is an act of parliament, but we have to remember that we have the grand law, which is the constitution. Under
Exactly,
chapter
yes.
4, which provides for the Bill of Rights. And one of the rights under chapter 4 of the constitution is a right to privacy.
Exactly, yes.
You get? However much I'm renting your premises, still I have my right to privacy. But that does not mean that that right is absolute. It's limited. That's why the bill is coming in and saying that for you to enter the premises, you should give me a written notice of 20 hours. 20
But now, Council, we have had these instances where a person has been renting my house for like a period of 1 year, and maybe I'm demanding them 6 months, and they are tired, and they then wake up one day and just exit and take everything, and I'm now at a total loss. Now when you give them this, right of maybe 20 hours notice, won't they use that as an opportunity to help them escape and run away
and
from the bills?
Business.
This is a business.
Nange ettaka lyange naligula nenzimbako ennyumba zange osanga nakola na retirement package yange. Business nange kwenzije ezirisa abe wange. Kati kiringana era ba tenants belinga abawadde amaanyi okufugira aba landlord okwabwe.
Nedda. That's why take a live very clear that for you to make a tenancy agreement, as a must, the tenant should have a national identification card. That's so clear.
Okay.
You get it? Meaning that by the time we enter into a tenancy agreement, the tenant is going to deposit you with their copy of national identification card. So in the instance that someone escapes, I think it's easy to trace them.
But how about the people who don't own and have a copy of a national ID? So won't they be tenants in this, according to the new law?
Unfortunately, the law is very clear, and I think it's under either section 3 or 4 of that bill. It's clear that for you to make to enter into a tenancy relationship with a person, a natural person, I should have a national identification card. Then, if I'm a foreigner, I should have an alien identification, for example, a passport. You get?
Yes.
For me to enter into a tenancy relation. Then, if I'm a legal person, to get a company, then I should have registration details. In other words, you may call them MEMATs.
Yes,
Memorandum of Association, articles, certificate of incorporation, and all that. So the wording of that bill saying that shall, so it's a must, meaning that if you're a person there and you want to rent premises, if this bill is passed, is assented to by the president, and you don't have a national identification card, and you're Ugandan, then you cannot enter into a tenancy relation. You cannot be a tenant.
So, but council, you see, when we look at the law, we should look at the practical bits here. Because you are, I hope you have been staying in Uganda.
Yes, I do.
What is in Uganda?
And you know that not everybody in Uganda actually owns a copy of the national ID.
Yes.
And isn't
the
this
process sometimes
discriminating
is
the
a
rest of the
little
people
slow.
who don't own a copy of the national ID? That's where I'm trying to get your view on the same.
I want to be as objective as possible. I remember this process started way back like in 2014.
Yes.
2014, 2015. But it was free of charge. Honestly, they didn't charge anyone to go and register and get a national ID. Sorry to blame the government that it's quite unfair. I don't get it. And also right now, when even you lose a national identification card, there's still ways, there are offices of near where you can go and get a national ID. And I think, as Ugandans, I think even right now, most of the transactions always require you to have that
the national
ID. So I believe it's in our interest as Ugandans to have national IDs.
Surely.
And I think this law also comes in to compel us to have those national IDs, because it's very clear, if you don't have a national ID, then you can't be a tenant.
Okay.
Yeah.
We keep on welcoming your comments, welcoming your views, and thank you for always watching. And I see people here watching. And council, some people, before maybe we continue with our questions, I see a few number of the questions here that the people watching out there are raising. And one is Nabukera, who says, when you say the rental tax, what exactly do you mean? Are you trying to mean that besides rent, we shall have to pay a tax? Please educate me about that. Thank you, Nabukera, for watching. I think you can first respond to that and then...
Yeah, thanks to Nabukera for watching the show. When I talked about the rental tax, when you look at that bill, it provides various duties and obligations to both a landlord and a tenant. And one of the duties of a landlord is to pay taxes and rents. Meaning that taxes like a rental tax, that's paid by the landlord. So that's not paid by the tenant. That's, let's make that very clear. Even up to now, even before the introduction actually of this bill, people who have premises and are renting them, they pay property tax, rental tax, all those taxes. They are not paid by the tenant. However, indirectly, the landlord is going to somehow
subject it on the tenant.
But to pay to URA, that's by the landlord.
Okay, that's clear. I think this is almost the same from Teresa Bracey. Thank you for watching. I think that one has been answered. And then we have Brooke Williams, Chikomeko, Favor Tenants, Twakiriza, Tetuina Chakora. Thank you for watching. And very many Nwajira Collins is watching live. And thank you for watching, Patricia Among, Lilian Ruwede, and the rest. Now, Jeremiah Muchivi, thank you for always watching. Now, Council, we have had a practice of landlords, especially in the city, capital city, who always charge their rental income in dollars.
In foreign currencies.
And they also give their reasons as to why they always do that. For example, getting their loans in dollars. But we see how they're trying to regulate such kind of dealings, and they say it should be charged in Ugandan currency. Are you not trying to maybe scare away people who want to invest by getting loans in dollars, and because they can't charge in dollars and the dollar rate cannot be the same always? You're not trying to regulate their dealings and maybe try to squeeze them here and there so that you can favor the tenants in this instance?
That's why I say, like I told the host when the show was beginning, this bill largely favors a tenant.
A tenant.
Yeah, and I think, Council, as you well know, like the whole we have said, most of these acts of parliament, they don't just come out of the blue.
Sure.
Government is trying to solve a certain problem here and there. I remember there was a saga when people were in Chukubo there, downtown, people were charging rent in dollars. But for crying out loud, this is Uganda. Yes, our national currency is the Ugandan shilling.
Yeah,
so I don't understand why you would want to charge me
in dollars.
I think the law is very clear now. Rent should be in shillings unless the tenant and landlord to come agree on their own terms. I think this is a very nice provision. It's not scaring away investors because you came to Uganda to invest, and our currency is the Ugandan shilling.
Yeah, it's the shilling.
So if you feel like you want to get your rent in dollars, you can invest in the United States.
Aliku program tteeka nze njiga nsuubira naawe gy'oli eyo oyiga betukutuusaako oba betukubaganyako ebirowoozo wano ku the alternative Digitalk bya mulamwa era bya nkizo nnyo eri gwe atulaba. Positive sigenda kwerabira kwebaza abantu abatulaba from the diaspora, abatulaba from abroad, abatulaba from around here Kampala. Tuli ku tteeka erikunyigiriza eyo kuba otaba landlord obeera tenant kikukwatako. So keep it Digitalk. We're talking real issues. Council. Tulina sometimes obuzibu nga bapangisa otaba landlord oba mupangisa. Omupangisa agenda na renting ya ekizimbe oba wokubeera. Nagamba nze wano tewanyumira ndowooza we bannyongerezaamu kano. I feel good. I will feel at home because people always say home is where the heart is, and home, you know, everything begins at home. A good home gives you every good thing. So nagamba akanyongeremu kano obanze neetaga wano light wano we neetaaga ceiling yange ebeere floor ya cement njagala tiles naye etteeka lino lina we lyakutte ku tenant ne landlord who repairs or who puts in kyoyagala oteekemu oyita mateeka ki njagala embangulire omuntu wange ali eyo nga leero alina apartment gy'alimu naye ng'alaba teli fit for their standard ye landlord ng'alaba nazimba namala osobola okubeeramu amanye nti wemba njagala okukyusa ekintu kya landlord wano wempita wemba njagala okweyongeza mpita mu tteeka ki.
Thank you, host. In a tteeka, it's very clear that if you're to make any alterations, especially fixtures in land are things that touch the surface, meaning that you cannot, for example, a seat is not a fixture like this seat here. This is a chattel. So for you to make alterations in someone's premises, if you're a tenant, you have to seek consent from the landlord. Meaning that if you enter premises, they are painted white, you will not just come and paint them yellow because for you
you want yellow or you want blue.
Yes. So you have to seek consent of the landlord.
Okay.
Yes. And because at the end of the day, remember, how much is the tenancy agreement? This is still a contract. And yeah, in one of the principles, we have to make a contract. There's what they call free consent. Like,
Sure.
So at the end of the day, for you to make any alterations in someone's premises, you have to seek their consent. And actually, the law is clear that if at all the landlord gives you that consent and you make some changes, when you're vacating those premises, you have to
no bizarre
the state they were in. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then on the issue of repairs, I take a ligamba that it's the duty of the landlord to make repairs. Generally, it's his duty. However, if at all damages in the premises are caused by the tenant's negligence, you get, or by failure to take reasonable care by the tenant, then there the tenant can make the damages. Now, of course, now the confusion will come in.
When you bring in the issue of negligence and reasonable care,
That's where the issue
is it
comes
that
in.
now taking us to court action to determine whether such an act amounted to negligence? Are we not increasing the cost of, court processes on a tenant on a small issue?
Yeah, of course. If for you, like a tenant, you feel you're not negligent, and the landlord claims no, you're negligent, you can go to court, and the court will settle down. Lawyers will come in to interpret, was this act amounting to negligence? But I think in the layman's way of understanding, and actually even the act tries to say that those repairs which come, or those damages which come in by the normal wear and tear. For example, if I've been in a house for 10 years, honestly, you cannot expect it to be the same way as I entered.
As it was.
The paint may be somehow dirty, some things
Of course,
break
abamu
because
tulina
of...
n'abaana. Hey, kati balinga bakugera abaana baffe okuzannya kubanga oyagala white wasigale ng'ali white.
So, those things that come up by the normal wear and tear, because tap breakings because it's old, then you cannot claim that that's negligence. However, for example, if in a tap or, for example, mixer, you come drunk and then honestly, that's your negligence.
Yeah. Naye nga era still naffe ba tenants tusobola okweddako mu ngeri emu oba endala. Kubanga wano w'osuza family yo, tapu emenyese, bill gw'ogenda ogisasula. Ate olinze landlord, really, akole repairs. Let's say sock pit evuludde. Abana we bali wonna n'abaavula.
But there is that exception in the same bill. A tenant a right to make and fix something small. But then edamu negamba nti when a tenant incurs a cost, maybe fixing a tap ako akatonotono, and there is that reimbursement.
You have to receipt.
That reimbursement. I think it's fair on one way or the other, on both sides. Then what do you want to maybe that you should educate the viewers and people watching us Akali on the issue of tenancy agreements maybe. Previously, Mundabade azukuka kumacha ninkukubira council, come to my premises, I have this new tenant occupying my premises. Then they use their terminologies, never be taken that tenancy agreement. It's so hard for them to understand
that language.
Such language.
Yeah.
But now, when you look at the new bill, there is a schedule providing for the tenancy agreement. Isn't this limiting maybe the involvement of lawyers and people with legal knowledge in helping the differences between the landlord and tenant? Kubanga abasinga ba landlord agenda gamba, since the law provides for the tenancy agreement, I will just go there, copy and fill in the details.
I know.
What is your take on that?
I think one way or the other, still, it's prudent upon any person that wants to get into a tenancy relationship and get with a lawyer.
Okay.
Yes, however much, like my colleague, my land friend has said, Council Kato, that we have now a tenancy, like a template that now is used, which is uniform, which is under Schedule 2 of that bill, and it's supposed to be used by everyone. Still, this is just a template. It doesn't mean that you have to photocopy and paste everything there, meaning that some changes have to be here and there, as long as they're in line with the terms and conditions under that bill. And still, when you look at even that schedule, it still has terminologies, legal terminology like quiet possession, vacant possession. I don't think someone out there, like a lay person, may understand. So, because remember, you have to sign that tenancy agreement, meaning that you still need the services of a lawyer to explain to you each and every
Each and every clause, each and every paragraph. So we should say that lawyers are not neglected by the stubborn landlords who are out there.
No, I mean, yes, you may neglect the lawyer and use your own tenancy agreement, but when you get into trouble now,
they will face the consequences.
You have to hire a lawyer to represent you in court.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Council, for your elaborations, and we keep on thanking everybody watching. This is the Alternative Digitalk, watching live, and we are streaming live on our Facebook page, the Alternative Uganda, and later on this show will be live, will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, the Alternative Uganda. And maybe before we proceed, Council, we have these 2 new publications by Norman Tumuhimbise. One is Liars and Accomplices. It's now available, and you can order for your own copy at 50,000 shillings only. We do deliveries. And the second one is the Kumanyoko Politics and Sowing the Mustard Seed by the same author, Norman Tumuhimbise, at only 50,000 shillings. So you can order. There are telephone numbers going down on your screens, and maybe you can get into our inboxes and ask from one of the members of the Alternative Digitalk for your own copy, so that you can also read and enlighten yourself on what's going on in these 2 different publications. And Council, maybe before we proceed on the same issues, I have this question, because before the coming into force of this bill, we have had so many remedies available on the side of the tenant and on the side of the landlord. Can you first maybe please brief us about those kind of remedies, and then later on we can look at the remedies now that are provided under this bill?
Oh, okay. So previously, before the introduction of the landlord and tenant bill, yes, however, it's still a bill.
It's still a bill. So we are still relying on the previous remedies in the different laws.
So most of those remedies actually provided for under the Mortgages Act.
Yes.
And we had something like distress for rent, whereby a landlord will enter the premises, confiscate your goods, sell them and get his rent, as long as it's escorted by a law enforcement officer or an LOC authority. Then we also had foreclosure, whereby he just terminates it and he evicts you out of the premises. Then also had where you could just also sue in court. We call that remedy action for rent in court. So when you look at now this new landlord and tenant bill, and by the way, for our viewers out there, it's very, very important to understand that this bill was first presented in Parliament in 2018. So in 2019, when Parliament passed it and took it to the President, for the first time, he made some recommendations, and one of the most recommendations, and so it's important to know which kind of bill you're looking at. Previously, this bill had maintained that remedy of distress for rent. I think that's the most disturbing remedy, whereby a landlord will come into your
building, for example, this office, and confiscate the cameras, confiscate the rights, and maybe get his money.
But when you look at now this current bill that has been passed, it shows here that the distress for rent remedy is abolished.
It's abolished completely.
That's abolished completely. And I think that's a good thing for the tenants. Sure. However, that does not mean that you're not going to pay someone's money. And they provide, for example, if a tenant is in arrears, he hasn't paid his rent, you as a landlord, you apply to court, for an order to get your rent. And also the costs that you incur by, issuing those notices, engaging the services of a lawyer, still they are incurred. And it's very clear, when you look at the bill, it talks about the fact that the procedure that is used, it's called the small claims procedure.
Small claims, yes.
Procedure rules.
And you very well know, Council, that small claims procedure have a limit of about 10 million.
Of about 10 million.
And doesn't that limit the person maybe who is demanding his tenant an amount that is beyond that money provided under the small claims procedure of 2011?
Yeah, because...
so does that person, maybe who is demanding for more than 10 millions, does he have any other remedy or any other forum where he can take his matter for, making himself get back his money?
Yeah, still, you look at the fact that these acts of Parliament, you don't read them in isolation.
Yes.
You read them, we have other laws that still govern the relationship of a landlord and a tenant.
Sure.
So, however much the bill talks about the fact that it's the small claims procedure that has to be used in order to recover your rent, like my colleague here has stated, for example, you may find like someone is renting his premises at 10 million a month and is demanding over 100 million. 100 million. So I think you can also still proceed under our normal civil procedure rules. You go to the High Court, it's 100 million and recover your rent. So we shouldn't read these laws in isolation. And actually, it's a principle. You know that we have to read these laws.
I may know that, but what about our viewer there? Who doesn't know that?
Yeah, true.
Sure.
I think this is trying to educate and maybe enlighten the viewer there that does not know the principle that maybe when you are reading this, any law or this bill, you should not read a section in isolation of the others, but you should read it as a whole so that you can understand.
Nsaba awo wenyini wenjagala omanyi amateeka obutamanya teeka kyakikugisa omusango.
Exactly.
Awo wenyini you've been so legal here. The language has changed. Ateba tenants to be in all classes. Yes. What do you mean by reading a law in isolation? Njagala nali echana mkaka achitegeresha ntegeeza.
For example, kati ngola bali neteka litoyina, the one we're discussing about the landlord and tenant
bill.
Kati tunayo na amateeka manji nyo. For example, tunayo teka libayita Contracts Act. It governing every contract.
Every contract.
Now, I'm quite like an example. When you look at Contracts Act, there are those requirements or prerequisites for you to make a valid contract.
Okay.
You get?
First
of all, you should have capacity to contract. Meaning that we no longer always 18. They should free consent, offer, acceptance, and consideration.
Okay.
Now, when they importing that down to a tenancy relationship, still it's also a contract. First of all, for you to be a tenant, you have capacity to contract. Such together. Then
you will not be allowed to enter that tenancy contract.
Yeah, you cannot enter because it's at the same time it's a contract.
Yeah.
However, so many bill, tenant bill, it's
you
not
get
anywhere.
A call. It has eliminated everything.
You don't have. There's no way that you have to have reached the age of 18. But however, Bosoma Contracts Act ija kugamba for you to enter any contract to be valid, Another thing talks about free consent. Your tenant.
Exactly.
And it's not anywhere under the landlord and tenant bill.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, that Munnamateeka gonna ogasoma like a whole, like osome no can't read it in isolation.
Yes. So that's what we are trying to mean. And we have certain number of questions here. Maybe council just we have to answer one after another. I'll start with Kakuru. I think he's directing that under the Uganda Citizenship, Migration and Control Act, Section 27, that it shall be the duty of every citizen of Uganda to apply for and acquire a national ID. I think this goes to the issue of where some of the Ugandan citizens have no IDs, and then we are thinking that maybe it could be a disqualification for one to be a tenant. Then Jesus thanks a lot, Council, for enlightening citizens. Jackie Sabiti, great brains here. Nwasigire Brian is live from Bara. Thank you for watching. Then we have Rogers, who is asking, and he's saying, we have several laws, most of which have not been implemented. Case in point is the Building Control Act. People build in swamps and road reserves every now and again. How do you think we can constructively implement the bill if it passes, since it affects every person? So he's trying to say that we have quite a number of laws that have not been implemented so well. And maybe Council, can we have your view about where is the problem of implementation of these good laws that we have as a country? And maybe how best can we try to change the norm and maybe have them implemented so well?
I think the biggest issue as to why most of our very, very good laws are not implemented is on the aspect of ignorance.
butamanya
abantu eyo bangi tebamanyi gana amateeka gatufuga balowooza gana amateeka gaba lawyer
okitegeera gabagagga
until that law catches up with you. But nga bwolaba, for example, now nga landlord and tenant bill katugambe ensha president signs it and it becomes law. Still I can guarantee you there are some people
abagendo leaks
nga tebagala manya until they come into trouble
that they will now run about the same law.
You find like for example olaba kweriyo eteeka ligamba that the landlord and tenant bill. I'll give you an example. It talks about the fact that as a must, if at all you're going to be paying rent of 25 currency points, in other words, 25 currency points as a must, you should have a written tenancy agreement. When below that, I may not have a tenancy agreement, but if you're a tenant, I think yes, but it's very important for you to have a tenancy agreement.
Yes.
So you should have that binding contract.
Between you and landlord taita wano so that it can govern the relationship. So the biggest reason as to why these laws are not implemented, first is ignorance, but still also it comes on the aspect of law enforcers, because the government will put a law in place, but however, it's the duty of the police to enforce law and order.
So, ground.
Yes. Yeah. So and now our police officers, somewhere, they implement these laws, should I say, indifferently. Oja kusanga omugaga building a swamp. So I think also with our law enforcers, and that's why people get tired.
So thank you for watching. Council, as maybe we come towards the end of the show, what's your advice? What best can we do so that we can have these good laws put into well use and implemented so to benefit the people as it is intended by the law makers?
I think, first of all, I think it's a duty upon us as Ugandans to try and interest ourselves in these laws.
Sure.
For example, if now this landlord and tenant bill is passed and becomes an act of parliament, get some time, get a copy of it, either online, read through, look at those various sections, because yes, there are those few legal terminologies here and there, but most of them it's basic English.
Sure.
And now another duty is upon the government, because not everyone in this country understands English. I think the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs should come up with an initiative to interpret most of our laws in local languages. In that, if I'm from Karamoja, or I'm from Busoga, or from Buganda, these laws are interpreted in the local language so that even the common man on the ground can get a book and read and understand it. Yeah, basically that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Council, and thank you so much, our viewers. This show, Tteeka or What Law, aims at sensitizing the people about different laws. This is what we shall be doing every Tuesday from 11 to midday. And we shall be hosting different people talking on different laws and educating the people, because Council has told you so clear that ignorance of the law does not exonerate you from committing an offense, and you will not raise it anyway. It is not a defense anywhere. Thank you so much, Council, and back to the host, baby, too.
Council, akatalekeka. Something we cannot just look at and put a blind spot on. Council, wetugenda ku kigambo kya rent. Nga tudiscussinze ebintu bingi okusasula rent mu budde, tenant singa balemesebwa okusasula akasente ka landlord alina amaanyi oba eryanyi erisobola okutunda ku bimu ku bya tenant najjayo akasente ke. Njagala fenna tuli bana Uganda, ate era fenna in one or the other tupangisa oba tulina be tupangisa.
Tulina be tumanyi
yes. Ku kigambo kya rent, abantu abamu batera ofuna obuzibu, let's say ku mirimu, oba naafunamu obuzibu mu nfuna ye. Do you think court, before we go to court, nga tonnantwala mu court, nga tonnanswaza, nga tonnatunda byange, Can we settle? Tusobola settlinga nze actually nenkolako ka agreements nengamba wenazifuna njazireeta mu bitundu webiti at least kale nontwala mu court nga breaking nze eyo agreement nga nji bleach nze yeah? Can we tusobola tulanga abantu because enkya kato onetaaga council onetaaga nange nkwetaaga okiraba tusobola nze ngamba kyandibaddewo ne tutuula wemba nemesebwa okunoonya akasente ako kubanga nafuna obuzibu ku mulimu or I got an accident anything can happen nenkugamba naye ennyumba yo sikyagisobola naye nsaba ompa obudde wemba saasevinga kuba abantu bangi bakolera mmere ya leero oba kanoonye nazireeta netontunda. What do people have to say about that? Because we're humans, we need to talk every now and then. Amateeka, yes, gatufuga, but still, ground, wetubera, where we reside, community. Abana baffe, tugenda bakuliza mu kusibye nkututeno nkuzizeno.
Yeah, so maybe to clarify on that, I will just first talk about that aspect of distress for rent. Ekutunde bintu by'omupangisa. Previously, in the initial bill, that remedy was provided for. Nawe to allow our president, Naligana, distress for rent, at a bill jetwine empya, that remedy of distress for rent was abolished. Ishtegeza umuntu baba rent areas to sokola kutunda bintu remedy.
But there are other avenues.
But there are other avenues. Ngabo Gambia. At the end of the day, this is a contract. Kukanya, mukirizaganya. So I think, like humans and having a human heart and all that, if your tenant fails to come up with rent, you can sit on the table with your landlord.
Sure.
You come up to an agreement. For example, Omugamba, I'm going to pay within 3 months or 4 months or something like. For example, when we were in the COVID, lockdown, so at the end of the day, it's a contract. It's a mutual agreement.
Sure.
Mukirizaganya. Okirizagana bwe kugana ata mugenda mukono.
Is that provision of ADR?
Yeah, because but also you have to appreciate that maybe nebizimba mubalana usanga ari ku loan.
Oh yeah, sure. Kitegeera.
So that's why actually bobola bali tteeka on the provision of rent ya Gambia. Yes, you may not increase rent over 10% in a year. However, the yata de kulimit ku rent. Sekitegeeza mwino kukanya ku rent jogo ino kusasula.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So mtu asobola kuteka mtwala 5 kaga so ne mukirizanga. So I think at the end of the day, ukirizenganya ne your landlord ne your tenant ne mu coming up to a solution, because still no bogenda mu court. No wabo musango tubakwero wemba sina sente sizina. Still ujaku ngena kufuna court order, then you have to execute those court orders. Wemba sina sente bateka mu civil prison ngena kwenda kusasulira emmeri ate myezi mukaga bweva.
So there are extra costs.
So at the end of the day, when we sorting there before court, it's very important. But also we have to remember landlords. They also have bills to pay.
Sure.
Abana
bokusomesa.
Yes, balina loans.
Balina okulya nabo bantu ngaffe bakozi ngaffe.
So you are parting shots, your last words to the viewers out there.
I'll still emphasize to all of us out there. Let's interest ourselves in the various laws, not even just that's the landlord and tenant bill.
Yeah.
So may your constitution, so may your penal code. Abamu bazemisangu ngate bamanyi. So try one more the other. Also make kumateeka gatu governing as a country, because trust me, one or the other, that law will catch up with you.
Surely.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Emeline, maybe as you take us
okay.
At the end of the show.
Actually, the show has been quite educating and it has been quite interesting. Tteeka ki egenda kubangula ku mateeka. Nze njize manyi naawe gy'oli oyize wano tugamba nti real issues, real talk. Ensonga ez'amakulu tuzikubaganyako ebirowoozo. Weewaawo naawe gwali eyo n'obanga omanya nti kino kye nina okukola okulaba nti sirumya munnange. By law enforcers on our grounds, that is police, LC, tusaba mutubangule mu mateeka nga we kisaanidde. Mbadde Nalukwago Emerin Katumba ne munnange Katoto Musime ne council Ntare Sentongo Anthony atukoze bulungi. Keep it Digitalk. Please like us, subscribe, share, and keep it Digitalk. We shall be giving you really interesting topics.
Buli muntu azaliwa n'eddembe lye ery'obwebange. Obadde okimanyi nti kikakatako okuuma eddembe lino. Eddembe lino likuggyibwako litya era ddi? Munnaffe toyitira. Bino n'ebirala birindirire mu programu yaffe tteeka ki. N'abaweereza abo Nalukwago Emerin Katumba wamu ne Tumusiime Kato. Buli Lwakubiri ku ssaawa 5 ez'okumakya wano ku Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.